AI is what we are working on with Sudhanshu and his team, Chris Sudhanshu and his team, right? And this whole structure is based on various sectors where we'll be working in retail, marketing, HR, operations, and other fields of management to take the data sciences and the new technologies which are there and enable them to help business grow. And that is the major focus area what Takshila is focusing on now. The role of every faculty and participant in Takshila is based on 4 different participant workings. First, we focus on research, along with the teaching in the classrooms, what students work around, right? And then the consultancy to the companies. So those are the things which we work around with the analytical models and data visualizations, what we are working on. Today, Sudhanshu will be covering into the algorithm working and data visualization also. At the end of this, we'll take some question answers around 12:30, around 1 o'clock. So we'll do a session of around 1 hour 15 minutes. Sudhanshu, that would be good. Around 1 hour 15 minutes.
Yes, yeah, Rajat, that will be good.
And then we'll take it forward with some questions. If you have, you can type those questions on the chat window, or you can email it to us. I'll provide you the email ID of the chat, and you can email also to us. We have different webinars scheduled now. We have another one scheduled on 3rd of February, 3rd of June, which is on family business. Dr. Parimal Merchant, who's the director of family business, SP Jan Institute, would be taking the session. He is also a visiting person to us. He keeps visiting on different courses on Takshila also, and he'll be working with us on different family business issues, and he'll be talking to you on how success can be there for family business, how you, if you have a family business, can grow it towards a future. Also on the entrepreneurship side, that if you want to start a business, how that will work. So that is an important session we have on 3rd of this month of June. Another session we have is a mini MBA series of 2 days on 6th and 7th. We'll be sending you the details of that, which is again a 2-day series, a certificate-based program series, wherein in 2 days we'll be talking about HR and human resource and how humans can be managed and work together and grown together, right, towards the organizational goal. So how it can be fully worked around is what we'll be discussing and working on. So Sudhanshu will start now on the business analytics part, and we take it forward from here. Sudhanshu, you want to start now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Rajat. Thank you so much. Okay, so hey, hello everyone. So I think yesterday we were talking about, I would say, fine. So yesterday I was talking about different kind of use cases, which is possible in a different domain, like supply chain, maybe, or maybe into a healthcare domain, maybe into a retail domain, or maybe into an insurance domain, or in almost every kind of a domain that you will be able to find out, including digital marketing or any other thing. So everywhere you will be able to find out use cases of a data analytics or a data science or maybe big data. So these are the things which is very common nowadays. Everyone is trying to utilize all of those things. So in today's discussion, so I will be talking about a specific industry. So I'll be talking about basically one of the use cases on which we have been working since a very long time, and we have delivered these things successfully for a big client, I would say. So this was a project that we have received from Mercedes-Benz Japan. And these clients was facing some kind of a issue, basically. They used to manufacture a vehicle. So we all know that Mercedes-Benz used to manufacture vehicles, a car, I would say, or maybe a sedan or SUV kind of a car, or a trucks or buses or bicycle, even they used to manufacture. So generally what happens is, so suppose there is a Mercedes-Benz, and if they're trying to manufacture a car or maybe a bus or truck, so 50% of the revenue, so any automobile company, I would say, so 50% of the revenue they used to generate by directly selling those vehicles at any point of a time. So even in India, if you will talk about maybe a Tata Motors, or maybe if you will talk about a Toyota, or if you'll talk about a Maruti, so every one of them so try to generate a 50% of a revenue out of direct sale. The another 50% of revenue they try to generate, which is called as a E2E, aftermarket. Means what? So suppose if you have purchased a vehicle, right? So if you have purchased a vehicle, so on a regular basis, for sure you will go for the servicing. And whenever you will go for a servicing, so maybe you will try to ask them that, okay, fine, so I have some problem in my engine, or maybe into a brake shoe, or maybe a clutch or gear, or maybe I have some problem with the interior, maybe I have some problem with the exterior, and all those things. And they will try to serve you basically, and they will charge for the same thing. Yes, for some of the servicing, so a couple of servicing will be free, so in a initial days, but still they are going to charge you. So the whole idea over here is, so any automobile industry, or any, so basically in any automobile industry or any automobile manufacturer, so try to generate a 50% of their revenue by directly selling a vehicle, and 50% of the revenue they used to generate from aftermarket. Aftermarket means, so by providing you a services, because you will try to purchase a vehicle for once, but next 5 year, or maybe for next 10 year, so consistently on maybe once in a year, or maybe twice in a year, you will go for the servicing, and for sure you will try to spend something over there. So to ask for the service. So this is a huge market. This is a huge market. I would say this is the $1 billion market for any kind of automobile industry. So we will try to understand in today's discussion that how we have solved this problem with the help of a data in the first place, what kind of a data analytics that we have done, and what kind of a data science applications that we have built for this one, and what is the exact problem that they have been solving. So here you will be able to find out that E2E, end-to-end aftermarket supply chain. So aftermarket supply chain, I would say. So suppose if you are going for a servicing, and I'm looking for a brake shoe, or maybe I'm looking for a gear, or maybe a clutch pad or something. So if they are not able to provide immediately, so maybe they will ask you that, okay, fine, so I need maybe a 10 hour of time, or maybe I'll be able to give you a servicing maybe into next 24 hour, or sometime they will ask you for 48 hour, because whenever you will look for the part, so those part will not be available at that point of a time in each and every warehouses, or in each and every servicing center. That is true. The reason behind that one is, so suppose if I'm talking about a Mercedes Benz some vehicle. So if I'm talking about XYZ Mercedes-Benz vehicle, so to manufacture one of the vehicle, so it takes almost 1.5 lakh of the part, 1.5 lakh a different part, including nut bolt, I would say, or including nut bolt, gear, a brake shoe, clutch pad, each and everything they need to manufacture or to assemble one particular vehicle. Likewise, they must be having hundreds of model into a car, into a buses, into a trucks they must be having. So it's very difficult. So if you will try to multiply this 1.5 lakh into 100, so this is the total number of a variety of the part that they are supposed to maintain to serve you immediately, which is a huge number, and which is almost impossible. None of these automobile servicing center does that. So what they used to do is, so whatever things is in demand, whatever like a vehicle they are getting more frequently, so they used to maintain a stock only for those vehicle. You might have feel this kind of a things. So whenever you will go for the servicing, so they ask you for the time that, okay, fine, so maybe in next 48 hour I will be able to give your vehicle, or maybe in next 62 or 72 hours, so I will be able to give your vehicle, or sometime within 10 hours they used to give us a vehicle. That is also possible. So to maintain these much of, I would say, inventory, to maintain this much of part into a single service center, it's a really difficult task. And again, it's not like Mercedes-Benz has manufactured just 100 of vehicle in last like 30 year, 40 year. So they have manufactured so many models for a buses, for trucks, for a sedan, for SUV. Even they have manufactured a bicycle. So like that is not that popular in India, but yes, in Japan or in a Middle East. So yes, these things are popular. So it's very difficult actually to maintain each and every part into a single warehouse. And at the same point of a time, so I have to serve my customer as well as soon as possible. Because let's suppose if I'm not able to serve my customer, if I'm not able to provide a service to the customer, so in that case, it could possible that my customer can go to someone else, or maybe some other service center, maybe some third party vendor. So they can, that is a possibility, that's a huge chances that it can go to some other like vendor, or maybe some other service provider. And in that case, I will lose my business. I will start losing my business over here, which is almost a 50% of my entire revenue, which is a huge money. Now, so I will be able to, or I will not be able to retain my business, or I can lose my business just because I'm not able to maintain a part in each and every service center, which is practically impossible. And yes, I completely agree with that. So 1.5 lakh into 100, so it's a huge number. And again, so it's not like it will just be 100, so it can go to even thousands of vehicle, I would say thousands of different model, because you must have seen that in a single model itself, so every automobile manufacturer company so try to release a multiple variants. So it's completely fine. So this much of inventory I will not be able to maintain. I'm completely sure about that. So that is a major challenges every automobile industry used to face. That is the first challenge. The second challenge is, so to maintain a inventory, suppose, so I'm getting a demand for a brake shoe for a XYZ Mercedes Benz, maybe say model. So for XYZ model, so I'm getting a demand of a brake shoe. Now, so if I'll talk about India, so maybe we can try to divide India into maybe 3 or 4 circle. So maybe east, maybe west, north, and south. So east, west, north, and south. So if we are able to divide our entire country in east, west, north, and south, so in the similar way, so we used to divide this entire different regions as well. So if we are able to divide this east, west, north, and south, this entire continent, so basically in east continent demand will be different, in west continent demand will be different, in north continent or in a south continent demand will be different. So in every continent, it's not like you will be able to get a similar kind of a demand, because maybe in a South India, right? So people used to purchase lots and lots of luxury car. So in South India, it could possible that demand is too high. So many people have purchased a vehicle. But maybe in a west side, it could possible that as compared to south, very few people have purchased this vehicle, but maybe weather condition is not good, or maybe road condition is not good in a west side, and it could possible that people are visiting a servicing center more frequently. That is possible. In general, what happens is, in general, what people think is that if people have purchased a more number of vehicle in south, so it could possible that I will be able to get more number of vehicle for a service in a south area. But no, it depends upon, I would say, environment or geospatial, I would say, like a reason or a factors as well. So here it could possible that in a west side I may get a more demand, but I have sold more number of vehicle in a South India, because in west side maybe a weather condition is not proper, or maybe a road condition is not proper. So for sure, depends upon that, I will go for the servicing more frequently, right, to the service center. So again, we were supposed to predict, or we were supposed to forecast that, okay, so in which area I'm going to get what kind of a demand. Suppose hypothetically, let's suppose, so hypothetically, if I am able to forecast, or if I am able to predict that, okay, so in North India, in South India, in like a west side or in a east side, so I will be able to get this much of demand, or maybe on a daily basis. So there is a possibility that I can receive these many number of the vehicle in this particular service center, because even in east side there will be a multiple service center, even in south side there will be a multiple service center, even in north and west side there will be a multiple service center. So somehow, I'm just saying that hypothetically, let's assume that if I will be able to forecast, if I will be able to predict that, okay, so this is the total number of the vehicle which I'm going to receive on a daily basis per warehouse. So let's suppose I have a multiple warehouse in east side, I have a multiple warehouses in west side, I have a multiple warehouses over here, I have multiple warehouses and service center in a south side. So somehow, if I will be able to predict, or if I will be able to forecast, it will be very easy for me, right, to maintain a maintain, I would say, inventory in that particular region, in that particular warehouses. But as we know that in a single vehicle there are 1.5 lakh inventory which will be involved. Just to manufacture one vehicle, I need 1.5 lakh small or big component, starting from all the component which will be available inside an engine or interior or maybe a exterior or maybe anything, starting from a brake shoe, clutch pad, gearboxes, or maybe like a steering or some part of an engine or anything, right? So there are these like a 1.5 lakh inventory I have to forecast reason wise, and that too a warehouse wise. And again, that's a challenge in itself, because I'm not talking about just a single part which I have to forecast. So just like a brake shoe, I have to forecast that how many brake shoe I'm supposed to keep in a east side or west side or north side or south side, or in what warehouses. I have to forecast, I have to give a forecasting about everything over here, which is a very tough things I would say to do, and that too for a multiple vehicle. And then I will be able to perform my analysis that, okay, so my forecasting says that in a east region, so let's suppose there are maybe 5 warehouses. So in one warehouse, I need maybe a 10 brake shoe in single month. In a current month, I would say maybe 15 over here, 12 over here, 18 over here, or maybe 22 over here. So it depends upon a number of the vehicle visiting my service center. So let's suppose I have a 5 service center in my east region. So for all these 5 service center, I will be able to do some kind of a prediction, some kind of a forecasting. But how I will be able to perform this kind of prediction or forecasting? To perform this prediction or like a forecasting, so I need a data, first of all. So in data analytics, in data science, every kind of a story starts from a data itself, every story. So whatever you are going to perform, whatever you are going to do, without data, you will not be able to do anything. So suppose if I have to make this prediction, suppose if I have to make this kind of a forecasting, so first of all, what I will try to do is I will try to connect through a data source. So in today's session, what we will be talking about is, so how this entire layer actually works, starting from a data source. So how and what and all kind of a data you need actually, what and all kind of a data which is possible. So how you will try to ingest a data, and then after ingestion of the data, so what and all procedure we use to follow to perform this kind of a prediction and forecasting, and what in all knowledge you must have. Because we all know that fine, we are looking for prediction forecasting, but before that I'm supposed to acquire some kind of a knowledge. Unless and until I don't have idea that how this data is going to behave, so for sure I will not be able to do this prediction forecasting. Although even if we will be having a data wise, you must be able to see that there are many open source platform which is going to provide you industrial data easily. You will be able to get it. But still, everyone will not be able to do a prediction or forecasting. You need a specific skill set, you need a specific technology, you need a specific expertise or understanding. So let's try to understand it over here, that how we'll be able to work on a data source and how I will be able to perform this forecasting or prediction operation. So this is one kind of a forecasting. Now, so this is just a forecasting of a particular part or particular inventory for a particular warehouse in a region, some region. Apart from that, so there was more there was many other forecasting that we were trying to do for the same project itself, and I will be talking about those things for sure. So just wait for some time. So here, if I have to predict or if I have to forecast that, okay, so how many brake shoe I'm going to need. Let's talk about just a simple inventory. Brake shoe. Brake shoe will be available in almost every vehicle, I would say. So let's suppose I have done a forecasting for a east region. In east region, I have a 5 warehouse, and for every warehouse, if I'm able to do a forecasting, so how I will be able to do this forecasting? What and all kind of a data I need? So the first thing is I need a sales data. So whatever vehicle Mercedes-Benz has sold in this south region, east region, west region, or north region, so I need a specific data. That is first thing. The second thing is, so fine, in the sales data, so I will be able to know that, okay, fine, so this is a vehicle, and this vehicle we have sold in a south area or maybe a north area, or maybe a east area, or somewhere. So it could possible there is a very high chances that, okay, fine, so this vehicle like will come for the servicing in this east region. I'm saying that there is a very high chances. I'm not certain about that, because it could possible that person has purchased a vehicle maybe into a east area and they can go for a servicing into a north area. It could possible, I would say. So I'm just assuming these things, because we always try to take some kind of assumptions. So this is the assumptions which I have taken, that okay, fine, so a person has purchased a vehicle in a east area and he will go for the servicing into a east region itself. He will not go for the servicing in a south region. I'm just trying to take approximate assumptions over here. That is one thing. Second thing is, so fine, from the sales data I will be able to know these things, that okay, fine, so which model I have sold, when I have sold basically, and to whom I have sold. Apart from that, so in every vehicle, in every high-end vehicle, you will be able to get a telematics actually. So you will be able to get a telematics report. Now, what is the meaning of this telematics report? So in almost every high-end vehicle, you will be able to find out that people, so in every high-end vehicle, you will be able to find out that people used to integrate a telematics devices. It's nothing but it's just a small devices that they used to integrate. I'll talk about that device as well, because I was working with the Verizon Research and Development. So it was basically a self-driven car division in which I was contributing. And at that point of a time, so I was working with the telematics device itself. So in every autonomous vehicle, you will be able to find out this kind of a devices, or semi-autonomous vehicle, you will be able to find out these kind of a devices in every high-end car, I would say. So these things will be available. So what happens is, this telematics devices always try to give you a real-time data. For example, so if I'll go to Google, just for example, just to give you a glimpse about the telematics devices. So if I'll go to Google, and then if I'll try to search for hum Verizon, this is the devices in which I was actually working for. So this is the device actually like on which I was working. It was just a small devices, and this is the hum device. This gets connected with your vehicle, and again in your mobile or in your server, so you will be able to get a report. I'll talk about this. So what like kind of things this device actually used to do. So this is the telematics devices which will be attached with almost each and every high-end vehicle, even in India. So nowadays, so in every high-end vehicle, so they have started giving us a telematics devices. Now, so this telematics devices always try to expose, or always try to pull almost every kind of, I would say. So this telematics devices almost try to pull almost every kind of information from each and every part of your vehicle, because nowadays whatever vehicle you will get into a market, so even in a vehicle in a middle range or maybe into a high range, you will be able to find out that people have integrated many sensors inside an engine to check an engine temperature, or maybe a pressure, or maybe a coolant temperature, coolant level, or maybe a battery, I would say a lifetime, or maybe a battery, I would say like a charge label, each and everything. So people have integrated a sensor in almost each and every inventory which is available inside your vehicle. So we keep on pulling a data. Apart from that, so we try to pull a speedometer reading as well. We used to pull a gyroscope reading as well. We used to pull basically like a fuel label reading as well. We used to pull almost every kind of a data from your vehicle in a real time. Apart from that, so we used to pull basically a latitude and longitude as well. Latitude, longitude as well. So latitude, longitude, nothing but. So we try to pull these kind of a data set maybe from I would say a GPS. So we had a GPS inside this device, and through a GPS, so we will get to know that, okay, fine. So in which area you are actually available, and consistently, so in which area, so you are trying to like, you are trying to go for some kind of a work or some kind of a task. So in this way, so if I'll try to combine this data, this particular latitude and longitude data, which I will be able to get from the telematics devices with a sales data. So for sure, I will get to know that what is your exact area. So in this way, I will be able to get, or I will be very much sure that, okay, so you are actually in a east region and you are near to maybe one of these warehouses. This is what a kind of information which I will be able to get. So this is the kind of information I will be able to get very easily if I'm able to pull a GPS location of your devices in a real time. Apart from that, what we have been doing is, so we were trying to do a vehicle health check as well in a real time. So we were trying to do a vehicle health check. So we were trying to pull all of those data from each and every sensor, and we were trying to do a sentiment analysis of those data, I would say. So whatever data that we were trying to pull from the telematics devices, that, okay, fine. So this is the temperature, this is the pressure of the different components of the vehicles. And based on that, we were trying to send this report to the user in their mobile devices that, okay, so maybe your battery needs some attention, or maybe your coolant needs some attention, or maybe your gearbox needs some attention. So these kind of information we were directly sending to the user in their mobile devices through this, like a mobile application that we have built through our telematics devices. Now in this way, what will happen is, so user will try to schedule for a servicing, or user will try to schedule these things for a repairing, I would say, or maybe replacement of the parts. Now, so I will get to know immediately. So in this case, so we were trying to suggest a user that, okay, automatically it will be an automated suggestion which goes to the user. So automatically user will get this notification, and user will get to know that, okay, so this is a problem I may face. So maybe let's try to book a service, and in this way, so user can go to any of this service center. So if user is going to the service center, so I must be very sure that I will be able to serve this user, so whenever he arrives to my service center. So in this way, we were trying to forecast, or we were trying to predict that, okay, so in this service center, so maybe I can receive a 10 vehicle or 15 vehicle on a daily basis. This is what a kind of a prediction or forecasting we were trying to do in a real time. Now, again, coming back to a main point, coming back to the agenda, I would say. So here, so we were trying to use our real-time data as well. And here we were trying to use our historical data as well, means a sales data. Sales data is nothing but it's a historical data. So whenever you will purchase a vehicle, this data will be generated. But here you will be able to find out that we are trying to use a real-time data. And this is what we have mentioned in our data source label. So in our data source label, you will be able to find out, or you will be able to see that we are trying to pull some of the supply chain based data over here. And apart from that, so we are trying to pull a telematics data. So what is a telematics data? Telematics data is a real-time data that I was talking about, which I was trying to pull from where? My telematics hum devices, I would say. So like it will try to give you all kind of a sensor data, position nothing but latitude and longitude, I would say. And again, a temperature, gear shift, a pressure. This is what I think I was talking about. So basically this data is been used. So this is the data which my vehicle will keep on giving me in a real time, basically. So whenever you will purchase a vehicle, I will register one telematics device on your name, and it will keep on pulling a data. It will keep on pushing a data basically to my server. And if I'm able to get my data in my server, or let's suppose in my system, in my computer, so for sure I will be able to do a data analytics. And based on that, so I will be able to suggest you that, okay, so maybe your battery temperature is going too high, or maybe like your gear shift position is not correct actually. So it could possible that maybe your gear plate, maybe it got dislocated, or maybe pressure is not good inside your engine. So maybe you need some kind of attention, or you have to send your vehicle for a checkup. So this is a kind of a real-time analytics we were trying to perform, and we were sending this report, or we were sending this information to the user immediately in their mobile devices. That is one thing. And same data we have been using to predict and forecast that how many vehicle I will be able to get for the servicing, because this will be the real-time data which will give me a position as well as which will give me a condition. condition of a different parts. So I will get to know that, okay, fine. So if I have given a suggestion to this user that, okay, so there is a problem in this particular part. So maybe there is a very high possibility that this user will come for the servicing. And if that user is coming for a servicing, so I must be ready with that particular part, so that immediately I will be able to serve my user, and then I will be able to secure my 50% of the market, because 50% is actually a huge revenue, and every automobile company are facing this kind of problem. So it doesn't matter whether it's a Mercedes-Benz or maybe a Daimler or maybe a Fuso or maybe a Suzuki or maybe a Toyota or Maruti or maybe a Tata, which is a local brand. So everyone is facing this kind of a aftermarket issue, and it's very difficult to maintain every kind of a inventory. It's a huge inventory in itself, and every day every manufacturer are trying to release some kind of a new models. So it's a huge headache, it's a huge task. So fine, I was able to use this telematics data to give you a health report of your vehicle, and I will be able to suggest you that, okay, fine, so this part needs attention. Precisely, I will be able to suggest you without even looking into a vehicle. I will be able to suggest you, and this is what happens in all the high-end car, I would say. Now, apart from that, so I will try to get some kind of a static data as well, or I can say historical data as well. Now, so that I will be able to get from the supply chain. So supplier master or parts master. Supplier master means what? So what in all parts I have, what in all parts I have already used, what in all parts I have supplied. So all of these kind of a data you will be able to get from the supplier master. Now, so you must be having an idea about parts as well with respect to a different vehicle. I was talking about like a 1.5 lakh, I would say. So 1.5 lakh per vehicle. And likewise, if I have like hundreds of different model, so these many parts or these many things or these many variety of the inventories which I'm talking about. So these many parts actually I'm talking about. So parts master, I will be able to get all the detail, like what is a part number, what is a part ID, what is a pricing, what is a stock, in which region stock is available, who is the manufacturer, for which model, what and all variants are available, many things. I will show you UI as well. So at the end of this session, right? So at the end of this session, I will show you one UI as well, where you will be able to get some pretty interesting use cases. So just wait for that. So here, we have a part master, so through which I will be able to get all the part detail. Now I will be having a cost file, I will be having all the inventory file, a logistic file. Now, so let's suppose in each region, if I'm trying to maintain all of these 5 warehouses, so it's my responsibility to maintain all the required inventory so that I will be able to serve my customer immediately. But to maintain these things, I have to manufacture as well. So unless and until I'm not going to manufacture, how I'm going to maintain these things? That is really impossible. So first of all, to maintain these things, fine. Let's suppose I'm able to predict that, okay, I need a 50 part over here, 15, 14 over here, 12 over here, 8 over here, maybe 10 part over here of a brake shoe. Let's suppose I need a brake shoe. So these many, like a brake shoe I need for maybe XYZ kind of a model. So for XYZ model, I need these many number of the brake shoe. But to make this things available over here, so first of all, I have to go for the manufacturing, right? Unless and until I will not do a manufacturing, so how I will be able to maintain? And manufacturing never happens into a service center or warehouses. It always happens in a plant or manufacturing. So all of these companies, or you might have seen that every company never manufacture each and every part. So as a parent company, as a Mercedes-Benz, for sure, it is not going to manufacture a brake shoe or clutch pad and all those things. They used to outsource. They used to outsource to the third-party vendor. They used to give a contract to the third-party vendor so that they will manufacture, they will give it to you, they will supply these things to you, and then you will try to maintain your own inventory. So to maintain any kind of inventory, I'll have to maintain my manufacturing cycle as well. Now, once I will be able to maintain my manufacturing cycle, so I have to do a packaging and I have to do a logistic as well. Because let's suppose, so I'm talking about East region, and let's suppose your manufacturing happens maybe into a South region, right? So from South to East, So from south to east, let's suppose some of the component we only manufacture into a south region. So from south to east, you are supposed to arrange a logistic, a transportation. And for sure, it is going to take a definite amount of a time in this particular way. It is going to take some different amount of a cost. So you are supposed to include all of those things, I would say. So demand and forecasting is one thing, but here I have to forecast that fine. So how many pieces I'm supposed to manufacture? Because here the case will be, let's suppose here the demand is we have forecasted that we have a demand of 15, right? We have a demand of 15. Let's suppose I have just manufactured 10. So in that case, for sure, demand was 15. I have manufactured 10. So in this case, I will lose my market basically, because five people can go to someone else, some third party vendor. It will not come to my service center. Or else, let's suppose this was a demand and this is the supply. Or else, let's suppose a demand was, I can say, 15 and I have manufactured 20. So I have supplied, I'm willing to supply 20. Again, in this case, I will lose a market, because I have, whenever I'm used to manufacture this particular inventory, so we used to do an investment, right? So without investment, because suppose if I'm giving you this contract, so for sure you will charge me something. And then, so it means that I have already invested. And if I'm not able to sell those inventory, I will be in loss. So if I'm going to forecast less, or if I'm going to forecast too high, yes, plus minus error rate will be there for sure. So it's not, I'm not talking about the case where you are supposed to like predict or forecast something with 100% accuracy. Yes, it's completely fine. So plus minus factor we always try to consider in everywhere, in every kind of analytics, or in every kind of a like a prediction forecasting by using any kind of a machine learning, deep learning. So even if suppose a demand is of 15 and then you have supplied a brake shoe, 20 brake shoe you have supplied, again there will be a problem, because I have already done the investment if I'm not able to sell those things. So for sure, so this I'm not supposed to keep this, I have not manufactured these things just to keep these things in my warehouses. So this is something that you all are going to face, and everyone faces actually. And it's not only cases with the supply chain industry or just with the automobile industry. It's a problem of each and every vendor. It's a problem of each and every manufacturer, starting from a FMCG, basically the food item that the company used to manufacture, I would say. So like a Unilever is having almost a 70% of the entire global market in case of a FMCG, including India, right? So when I was working with them, so even they were facing this kind of a huge issue, I would say. And again, it depends upon many conditions, it depends upon many factors. It depends upon the like maybe a geographical factor, maybe a political factor, depends upon your competitors, depends upon like the kind of people who is staying over there, from which region they generally belongs to, or what is their income. Many different kind of a things it depends upon. So there are many XYZ variable you will be able to find out in that particular case. Now here, so I have to forecast. I have forecasted that, okay, somehow hypothetically, I'm saying that, okay, fine. So I'm able to get the demand. There is a demand of 15. And so if I'm able to get a demand, I will try to send the same thing to the manufacturing plant, saying that, okay, fine. So you have to manufacture 15 pieces of the brake shoe. Then manufacturing plant will manufacture it. Then they will arrange a logistic. Logistic means transportation. They will try to arrange from one places to another places so that it will be available. Now this logistic is going to cost me something, and it is going to take some time as well. So both the factors will come into a picture. So whenever I'm thinking of serving my customers, so I'm supposed to consider all of these factors. I'm supposed to consider basically a time, as well as I'm supposed to consider my cost. Because for sure, if someone is going to offer something in a low cost and lesser amount of a time, you will try to prefer, or you will prefer to go to that particular person. You will not come to my service center, right? So I'm supposed to talk about a cost. I'm supposed to talk about a time. So whenever I'm going to manufacture, so everything will come into a picture. So I'm supposed to do a competitor analysis in that case, that, okay, fine. So who is the competitor available into a market, and what kind of a price that they're trying to offer, basically, how much time they are trying to take for giving a servicing. Then only I will be able to make my service, make my service center better. I would say, and I will be able to serve a customer immediately as soon as possible by the time they will arrive. So this is what we were trying to predict and forecast. So everything is going to take its own time. So here we were not only predicting or forecasting the inventory, we were predicting and forecasting, I would say that, okay, so who will try to manufacture, what will be the cost which is going to come on me to manufacture these many, I would say, brake shoe. Here I have just taken a sample of 15, but actually it will be in a lakhs. So sometimes it will be in a millions. So for some of the parts, so I've just taken some of the sample like example, that's it. So again, so we used to predict and forecast that, okay, so if my vehicle is trying to take this route, so how much time it is going to take for the logistics. And this is like a vehicle tracking, we used to say, or I would say like we always try to like predict and forecast that, okay, so how much time one vehicle is going to take from one region to other region, what an all maximum amount of inventory that it can keep in an optimized way. So we try to predict and forecast that as well, because I'm not talking about just a one or two vehicle, just one or two times, I would say. So like there will be thousands and thousands of vehicles, thousands and thousands of inventories we used to send into a multiple region on a daily basis, and everything should be automated. So I don't need any kind of a dependencies on my system. Everything should be automated at any point of a time. So people should get a report, and then based on report, so they should be able to work. This is how it should happen. So basically, if my service center is going to get a report that, okay, today I'm going to receive 15 vehicle. So maybe that service center will be ready with that. If my manufacturing plant will be able to get a forecasting, separate forecasting that, okay, I have to manufacture these things, they will start manufacturing. They will get a specification for a particular device or particular like an inventory that they have to manufacture. They will start it. Suppose my logistic department will be able to get a report that, okay, fine, so today this much inventory you are supposed to pick from point X to point Y, you have to like transport. So again, they will automatically start working on that, because it's a huge cycle I'm talking about. It's a huge cycle I'm talking about, or I'm talking about a country-wise operation. So in this particular case, so if every one of them will be able to get their prediction, their forecasting, relevant prediction, relevant forecasting, so just imagine so how smooth their work will be, basically. And again, without losing even a single rupees and without losing even a single customer, I will be able to serve them in a most effective way. And this is what we always try to implement, or this is what we always try to do into a supply chain. So this was basically this is a kind of a topic which can cover supply chain as well as automobile industry, you can say. And this is not only a problem of supply chain, this automobile industry, this is a problem of every industry. So here and there you will be, so because everyone is trying to manufacture. Suppose if I'm trying to supply this particular mouse, so someone has manufactured even this particular mouse in some of the like a factory or somewhere. They have assembled it, they have manufactured all the component which is available inside this mouse, and then they have assembled it, and then they have done the transportation, and then finally, so I have purchased it from somewhere, and then finally I'm able to get it, right? So even to manufacture or even to get this particular mouse, I am supposed to like I'm supposed to complete the entire cycle, starting from a demand to manufacturing to supply to logistic, I would say, till a customer. So in every product, whatever you will be able to say, whether it's a food item or whether it's a vehicle or maybe whether it's electronics gadgets or maybe like it's maybe I would say a textile industry. So everyone used to face their own kind of a problem. Everyone will be having a specific kind of problem into a supply chain, because everyone is trying to manufacture and everyone has to run their business. So data is a fuel, data is an important factor that you will be able to get in this particular area, in this particular case. So let's try to understand it. Let's try to understand it over here. So this supply chain kind of a business, I would say. So we were trying to get all of those data, logistics data also we were able to get. I was talking about logistic data, means from where to where, how many parts we have to transport, and warehouse, master warehouse detail, everything we were able to get. As well as we were able to get a purchase order. So how many user has purchased this particular inventory in past couple of months, or like dealer master, or how many vehicles people have ordered in what region. I was talking about a vehicle orders, right? So yeah, this is the same thing, registration and all those things. So this is basically a data. This is the data that we were receiving. So likewise, there was almost 120 plus different files we have received. I have given you some name of the file. I have not, because I can't write like every file name over here, so I've just mentioned a couple of the file name over here. So this is the kind of a file I was receiving. So for sure, even in a real time, right? So in real time, so just to perform analytics or maybe a prediction forecasting, so it's not like I will be able to get just a single file and then I will be able to do it. In a real time, you will be able to get many different components and many different files from a different heterogeneous system. You have to club it, you have to combine it, and then so you have to identify that, okay, so if this is the file which is available to me, and inside that, if this is the attribute or this is the column which is available to me, so now next what? So next, what I'm supposed to do? So next, you are supposed to understand, or you should get an understanding about those data, those file plus business. So how your entire cycle or how your entire business is running. So you must know about that thing, and which business is generating what kind of a data, even you should know about that. And this is where I would say MBA graduates, or I would say like domain experts comes into a picture. So they must be having an idea. So in MBA, I would say, or like management people, so they must be having an expertise with respect to a particular domain. It could be a supply chain, or maybe it could be a retail, it could be a FMCG, or it can be an automobile, or maybe aviations, maybe oil and gas, I would say, or some other kind of industry like educations, or maybe a healthcare. Because all of these industries or maybe operations industry, I would say, or maybe our digital marketing industry. So all of these operations itself is a huge operations when you will try to look for the expansion, or maybe if you have a business countrywide into a multiple country, into a different regions, I would say. So you have to understand, or you have to know about a data. Unless and until you don't have understanding about a data, unless and until you don't know about a data, so you will not be able to, so basically you will not be able to, I would say, like or unless and until you don't have, I would say, like a understanding about the business, your own business in which you are working. So maybe a supply chain, or maybe automobile, or maybe a digital marketing, or maybe operations, you will not be able to find out, or you will not be able to do any kind of a prediction or forecasting. It will be very difficult, actually. It will be very difficult for any kind of a person. So once you will be able to get that kind of a knowledge, then you will start pulling a data from the data sources. There could be any number of the data sources which is possible. In our cases, yes, there was a huge amount of a data source that we have received, like a 120 plus file, and that was available into a different system. So some of the file was available into a SAP system, Oracle system, I would say. Some of the file was available into a telematic devices, as we said. Now here again, a frequency of the data will be different. So some of the data I was getting once in a day, twice in a day. Some of the data I was getting once in a month, twice in a month. So let's suppose a sales report, right? So I don't like get sales report on a daily basis. Maybe on a weekly basis, I will get a sales report, right? That is completely fine. Again, if I'll talk about a logistics, right? So maybe I have to do a logistics on a daily basis. So I will get a report on a daily basis. So again, if I'll talk about a telematics data, in every second, in every microsecond, I will be able to get this telematics data. So everything is, I would say, so everything is possible in this particular place. So everything is possible in this particular place, and every kind of operations are like feasible. So if we are able to pull this kind of information, this kind of data, so frequency of the data was different. So it was not same at all. So frequency of this set of a data, or this set of a data, or this set of a data, everything is different. Now, so again, source was completely different. Now, so once you will be able to get a data, so what you have to do, so what happens is, whenever you will try to get a project, so you try to sign off, I would say, one agreement called as NDA, and another agreement called as DSA. So NDA is nothing but it's a non-disclosure agreement, means I will not expose your data to someone else. And DSA means data sharing agreement, means whenever you will give me a data, so you are going to give me, let's suppose, 120 plus file. Then on top of that, so you are going to give me basically a name of the file and frequency of the file and all those information. So actually this will be mentioned into a DSA, means what kind of a data you will be able to get, whether it will be an Excel sheet or maybe a JSON file, or whether I have to pull from your server, and then what will be the name of the file, what is the timestamp of the file, what will be the extension of the file, everything you will be able to get, what and all columns will be available in which file, or what and all number of the records will be available in each and every file. So everything you will be able to get, I would say, in this particular case. So we try to get our data sources, and then we try to maintain something called as master data management. In master data management, so we try to maintain our source of truth or a fact. Now, on top of that, so whenever you will get a data, so you will not be able to utilize those data directly. So it's nearly impossible that you will get a data and then you will start using this data. In our world, basically, when we try to learn something, right? So we try to pull a data from a Kaggle or from somewhere else, and then we start doing a data analytics. But in real time, it is not going to happen in this way. So you will have to perform a variety of the operation on top of the data, like a data quality check, like a data transformation, like a master data management. So data quality check means what? So whether whatever file I was expecting from you, so whether you have sent me a same file or not, whatever extension I was expecting you from your side, whether you have sent me a file with the same extension or not, whatever column name I was expecting from your side inside a file, so whether these column names are available or not. So each and everything we use to check, I would say, into a data quality check. And then on top of that, so we try to perform a transformation. So like, for example, so basically it was a Japanese client. So they have given us a sum of the data or some of the column which was available into a Japanese language, or in terms of I would say Unicode. So we used to say that as a ShiftGIS, SHIFTJIS. SwiftGIS format actually. So this is nothing but it's a Japanese format. Like English is called as a UTF-8. You might have heard about that. So computer understands this English language as a UTF-8, I would say, UTF-8, UTF-16. So in the similar way, so Unicode for this one was SwiftGIS. So if some of the data which is available into a Japanese character, for sure I will not be able to process it. It's nearly impossible for me to process those kind of data. So what I will do, so I will try to do a data transformation. I will try to convert those like a Japanese language or a Japanese data into a UTF-8, I would say. So into UTF-8, I will try to do a transformation, and then I will try to process it. This is what happens, I would say, in case of a date. Apart from that, so many various transformations. So like if I have to do a date timestamp transformation, I will try to do it. Many times what happens is, so you are able to get a multiple column, but you will not be able to get your data directly. So you have to derive your data in that case. For example, I will tell you. So what happens is, so suppose if I have to find out that what is the acceleration of the vehicle. So acceleration is nothing but dv by dt, rate of change of velocity with respect to time. This is called as an acceleration. Suppose if I have to find the acceleration of some vehicle, but from here, from your telematics data, I was getting a speedometer reading and I was getting a latitude, longitude and time. So at what time, what was the velocity at what point of a time. Now this telematics data was not giving me acceleration. Now if I need a acceleration, so if I have to predict that whether you are a bad driver or whether you are a good driver, so maybe I can try to take acceleration as a component, and here, so I will try to derive it by myself. So this is what happens in a data industry. So whenever you will, this is where a domain expertise knowledge comes into a picture. A person who understands a particular domain, I would say, so they used to derive this kind of a things. And they used to do this kind of a transformations. So as a business person who understands a business, they will suggest us that, okay, fine. So this data is not available directly, but you will be able to produce those data. So this is where MBA graduates and all those people comes into a picture. So we'll try to do a data transformation, and then next layer will be a data processing layer. So here in this particular case, so after processing a data, so we try to create a data lake. Data lake is nothing but a data which is required. And then whatever data is not required, we try to do a data archival. Archival means let's try to dump it in some databases, which maybe in a future, so I will try to use it. But data lake means, so I used to keep my what? I used to keep my active data, which I'm going to use it, right? So what we have done, we have ingested our data first of all, and then we have done all the data cleansing, transformations, master data management operation, and then I'm trying to separate my data in two parts. So one is an active, one is a passive data. So passive will go to the data archival, and then active will go for the data lake where I can use it. Then on top of that, what I will do, so on top of that, so maybe I can try to create a different kind of analytical things, or maybe a functional repository. So functional repository means, so some kind of a business calculation I can try to implement on top of my data. That is one thing, that is true. And maybe, so maybe some like a functional operation I will try to perform over here, some kind of a statistical model I will try to find out. So I will try to find out that, okay, fine. So what is a factor based on that? Maybe like demand will increase or demand will decrease. So it could possible that if weather condition is too bad, if road condition is too bad in some reason, so maybe I can expect an increase in demand. But I can expect that, okay, fine. So if people is facing some kind of a natural calamity, or maybe some kind of a pandemic situation like now, right? So in that case, for sure, no one will come for the servicing. So demand will be very less. So basically, based on the statistical analysis, we try to find out that, okay, fine. So what is a correlation between the demand and a supply, what and all things I'm supposed to supply, and how market is going to behave. So we try to perform this kind of operations by using a statistical model over here. Again, so like not much knowledge is required for those things. We have a libraries for that. Just you have to pass the data and your work will be done. So it's not that like a tough, I would say. So it's very easy actually. It sounds like it's tough. It sounds like it's some kind of a heavy operation, but actually it's not a heavy operation. So we have a library which will try to give you entire statistics, entire relationship between the data set in a single sort. Now, so data virtualization, so derived data, I would say, data mining operation we used to perform. And on top of that, so we try to do a predictive analysis. So here you will be able to get your prediction. Prediction of what? Prediction of a number of inventory, or let's suppose I was talking about a brake shoe. So number of the brake shoe I need into a east region for all these 5 different warehouses, a prediction for a manufacturing plant, prediction for a logistics, I would say. So you will be able to get all of those prediction and forecasting on this particular layer. So prediction, predictive analytics, prediction and forecasting by using some kind of a machine learning algorithm, or maybe a statistical algorithm. Somewhere we try to perform a data discovery, we try to derive a data, we keep on deriving a data. So this is also a kind of a use cases that we use to fulfill, or sometime we use to perform a ad hoc analysis, I would say. So ad hoc analysis means, suppose my manager will ask me that, okay, fine. So just do one thing, in a east region, right? So just give me a report about like, what is the total number of the cost, which is, or what is the total number of the revenue which I have generated, maybe into a east region, whether we are going in loss or whether we are going into a profit. So this kind of ad hoc analysis, maybe I will be able to do on maybe a monthly data, maybe on a weekly data, and I will try to showcase a trend. So once you will be able to perform this kind of ad hoc analysis, once you will be able to perform this operation, so fine. Finally, what you will do is you will try to give some data. So everywhere, after every analysis, you will generate some data. Now, so we generally try to store a data set in some databases. That is true across the industry. So maybe a SQL databases, maybe a NoSQL databases, we try to store the data. But if my manager is asking me for the report, or if this manufacturing guy, or maybe a warehouses, maybe a logistics people is asking me for maybe a report, or maybe an analysis, or maybe a prediction of forecasting, so I can't ask them, right? So I can't ask them that, okay, fine, so I have already done my analysis, all those data set is available in your, I would say, so all the data set is available in your databases. So I have already done my analysis, and I have already done my data. Just go and log into a database and then look into that. I can't ask them. I can't ask these things to my manager. So what I need in this case, I need a beautiful report. I need some kind of a meaningful insights, basically. So now what? So now your visualization tools will come into a picture, your reporting tool or your dashboards will come into picture. So here in this particular case, once you will be able to get a prediction and forecasting, so you will go for the visualization, or maybe a reporting, or maybe you will try to create an application into a mobile devices, or maybe you can create an entire workflow, or maybe a web application in which you will try to create a beautiful report over here. So beautiful report which will be able to give a proper insights to my manager, or maybe to my manufacturing plant operative, or maybe all the warehouses. So for everyone, we used to create a different kind of a dashboard. So here in this case, so dashboarding wise, we can use a Tableau, we can use a Power BI, we can use a ClickView. So there are many other dashboards which you will be able to create, and you will be able to create a beautiful insights out of that. So this is where a data visualization or presentation layer comes into a picture. So the whole idea which I was trying to talk about over here is, so whenever you will work into a data industry, whenever you will work into a data industry, so whenever you will start from a data source to a presentation layer, I would say, so whenever you will start from a data source till a presentation layer, so every data industry try to follow a similar kind of a life cycle. I'm saying that it's a very generic one. Yes, it's a generic one, but in every industry, you are going to face a similar kind of a issue. You are going to face a similar kind of a things, I would say. Similar, exactly similar kind of a things you are going to face everywhere in every places. And what you have to do is, so maybe a data source can change, maybe a ingestion layer can change, maybe a presentation wise, previously I was using Power BI, this time maybe I can use a Tableau, but these steps are not going to change, I would say. So what in all skill set that you need to acquire or to derive this kind of a use cases? So basically, if I'll talk about a presentation layer, so you need someone who is working as a data analyst, I would say. So here a data analyst people, so always try to work on a reporting side, or I would say in a visualization side, or wherever we have to generate some kind of insights, a final insights, I would say. So this is a place where data analytics used to work, or data analyst kind of a people will come into a picture. Now, if I'll talk about this particular layer, so in this particular place, you need basically a big data people who will be able to ingest a data, who will be able to handle a huge volume, variety, and veracity of the data, I would say, which is called as a big data. If you combine all these three V, so volume, variety, and veracity. So this is where you need a big data people, or a people who can handle a huge amount of a data set, huge amount of a ingestion of the data, and then on top of that, so some kind of a real-time operation, or near to real-time operation, or maybe a batch operation. Now, on top of that, what we used to do is, so on top of that, you need a domain expert over here. So we need someone, even from here itself. So whenever this big data people will work, so domain expert is going to suggest them that, okay, fine. So you are supposed to ingest this data and you're supposed to leave this data. This is a suggestion which should come from the domain expert itself, I would say. So this is where you need a domain expert. Plus, even over here, in every layer, you need a domain expert going forward. You should be very good with your domain, or you must be having an experience or some idea about a domain in this particular case. Along with that, so you must be having idea about, I would say, maybe some kind of a statistical concept, or I can say precisely that a data science, because inside the data science, ML, DL, machine learning, deep learning, and all sort of things comes into a picture. So you must be having a domain expertise, plus you should know some concept behind a data, some concept of a data science. If you are aware about this if you have a domain expertise, and if you're aware about a data science concept, so yes, for sure, you will be able to perform these kind of operations easily, or maybe you can guide someone, or maybe you can assist someone who will be able to perform a similar kind of operation. So this is what happens in general in an actual industry. So whenever we are going to work into actual use cases in an actual scenario, so we try to consider each and every factor, starting from a data sources, starting from a data ingestion, till I will say a data presentation. Unless and until you are not going to take care of this, your data is not going to deliver anything to you. So yes, data is everywhere. We all know that data is oil. Data is like a new driving factor for an entire industry, or not only entire industry, I would say entire universe, I would say. Just based on the data itself, we try to do many operations. So if I have to like maintain or manage this pandemic situation, again, if I have a proper report, proper data, maybe I will be able to manage it in the easiest possible way. If I know that, okay, fine, so how many people are getting affected, in which area we are having like a huge amount of affected people, in which area I have to supply some of the inventory, or maybe supply some of the food items, or maybe some kind of a goods, yes, I will be able to handle that situation. So if I have a exact COVID-19 virus data, if I have a protein structure of a COVID-19, so for sure, just by doing an image processing or analysis, so people will be able to crack the protein structure, and for sure they will be able to build a medicine. And this is what people are trying to do. You must have heard about that government of India has also released an initiative where they have released some kind of a data, and they have asked you to do some kind of a research if you will come up with some solution. So yes, there is a huge reward you will be able to get. So data is everything, I would say, whether it's a image data, whether it's a textual data, whether it's a Excel sheet data, whether it's a JSON data, or whether it's a video, or whether it's a sensor data, everything is important, and everything just depends upon data itself. Yesterday, I have given you many examples, starting from a Google Map to your Gmail, or whatever Swiggy, Ola, Uber application that you are using, everything, or even your banking operations. So everywhere, in everything, data comes into a picture. It depends upon us how we are going to utilize it, and what kind of outcome we are able to derive out of the data. That's the only things which matters. And this is where, and that's the reason I would say this data science industry, a data analytics industry, a big data industry, a domain expert. So this industry is growing, because without that, you are nothing. Industry is nothing, I would say, without that. So people will not be able to drive any kind of a, I would say, industry in any cases. So this is what you should understand. And yes, it's just a small use case, guys, I would say. Likewise, what I have done is, so likewise, I have prepared many different architecture. So like I was talking about a banking architecture, I was talking about a human resource architecture, I was talking about a motor insurance claim, I was talking about like retail and supply chain architecture. So every architecture is having some kind of advantages or significance on top of everyone else, because in every industry, data is not going to be same. The procedure that they used to follow is not going to be same. Like the way you will be able to receive a data is not going to be same. So here, that's the reason. So we have designed a different like a different kind of architecture which we have used, or on which we used to work, so that just by looking into this, once you will be having understanding, because once I will be able to explain, I will be able to talk about these architecture, so you will get to know that, okay, fine, so what is the exact problem that we face into an insurance industry, what is the exact problem that we face into a human resource industry, how we are trying to solve it, what are the approaches by which I will be able to solve it, what is the problem that we are facing into a retail and supply chain. Yes, I was talking about retail and supply chain into automobile. Now here again, I have mentioned retail and supply chain, I would say, for goods, or maybe for a FMCG product, maybe food items, basically. So what kind of a retail and supply chain those people used to, like a problem those people are facing, and how we used to solve them. So I have mentioned that use case as well. Even over here, again, security and surveillance. So what kind of a security and surveillance AI based solutions that we can build, or if you can go to our iLearn channel, you will be able to find out many other videos as well related to a security and surveillance and a different industry. So coming to the conclusion, guys, so after that we'll start taking a question, I think. So yeah, so basically data is everything. So if you have a sufficient amount of a data from a proper channel, and if you have understanding and knowledge about your domain and your data, and if you understand a problem of an industry, so data can do anything for you. But at the same point of a time, if I don't have an understanding about a data, even though if I have a zettabyte of a data, so it is not going to work for me at all. So before getting into anything, so first thing we should understand is understand your data first. And then on top of that, so you should know about a technology that, okay, fine. So I know I have a domain knowledge, and then on top of that, so I know some kind of a technology which by which I will be able to consume my data, and I will be able to perform some kind of operations. And on top of that, so you should know little bit of statistics in terms of, I would say, should know as statistics in terms of a data, that what kind of a statistics will help me out to get an insights from the data to derive a new use case out of the data. So in this way, you should know statistics. You should not know statistics in old school days statistics. And machine learning, yes, you should know some of the algorithm again. So there are libraries which is already available and by which you will be able to perform all of those operations. So these are the things is a much known things. On top of that, if you know some kind of a visualization tool like a Tableau or Power BI, that's well and good. And demand is very huge for a people who is having these kind of a skill set. And everyone just go to Naukri, go to LinkedIn, and you will be able to get, or you will be able to find out or check this demand by yourself. So we are not supposed to say even that, okay, whether there is a demand or whether there is no demand. So because this job market is open for everyone can check, right? So demand is very high. So if you have a proper skill set, if you have a proper knowledge about each and everything, yes, you will be able to get into this industry. It's not that tough, I would say, even now. So with that, so I will try to rest my lecture. Rajat, am I audible to you? Rajat? Okay, guys, so what we will do is, so we can start taking some questions from your end. So just wait for a 30 seconds. Okay, guys, so those who have a question, so you can start posting your question in your chat box. So Priyanka is asking question that what is a difference, what is the difference supply chain and logistics? So difference between supply chain and logistics is, Priyanka, so supply chain basically try to cover an entire cycle. I would say supply chain simply means that, so first of all, you will try to predict or forecast, or first of all, you will try to understand a demand. Now, what in all factors which is responsible for a demand that you will try to understand. And yeah, Rajat.
We'll take some questions now.
Yeah, I think I've already started taking questions, so I'm just trying to answer one of the questions. Yeah,
okay.
Just give me 2 minutes. I'll finish. Yeah. So I was trying to talk about what is the difference between a supply chain and logistics. So in supply chain, so we try to consider a whole cycle, which cycle starts from a demand, I would say. So demand depends upon a multiple factors. So in this particular case, you must have seen that it can depend upon the geographical factor, or maybe some kind of a climate, or maybe some kind of a pandemic situation. Maybe it depends upon the number of the customer who have purchased the vehicle, or maybe economic condition of that region. So it starts from a demand, and then we try to drill down into a supply, I would say. So supply in terms of manufacturing. First of all, we try to understand that, okay, fine. So to supply anything, first of all, we have to manufacture. We have to do an investment. We should have a plant for that. We should have a vendor for that. So we try to understand all of those factors. And then, so once we'll be able to do a manufacturing, so logistics will come into picture. So logistic is a subset of a supply chain, I would say. So whenever supply chain comes into a picture, logistics automatically comes into a picture, because whatever product you are going to manufacture, without logistics, you will not be able to complete your cycles. Logistics simply means that transportation. So transportation of one thing from one place to other places, again over there. So we used to apply a lot of analytics, because suppose if I'm trying to send something in my one of the container. So how efficiently I will be able to use a container, how efficiently I will be able to optimize my route, because in our daily basis, so we try to transport millions of vehicles from one place to other places. So if we are able to optimize it, so maybe I will be able to save millions of dollars in that particular case. And this is where, again, we try to do a logistic analytics on top of that. But yes, as far as logistic is concerned, so with respect to supply chain, it's a subset of a supply chain. So yes, yeah, Rajat. So I think we can take another question.
Right. So what is the career options in data analytics for MBA freshers in marketing? We have no prior technical background. Is it possible to make a career in this, and how? Kunal Goswami wants to ask this.
Okay, Kunal. So see, the thing is, yes, career-wise, don't worry about the career part. But yeah, let's talk about a technology. So what and all the skill set that you have to acquire. So in case of a data analytics, I would say, so you should know some kind of a dashboarding tool. You must be very good with the dashboarding tool, because before previously, so people used to focus on an Excel sheet. But nowadays, so the things which you should know is dashboarding. And let me share my white screen. So yeah, so you need some kind of a dashboarding tool in a first place. Then you need maybe a Power BI, Tableau, ClickView. These things will come into picture. On top of that, so some kind of a SQL understanding, some kind of a Excel sheet understanding, and some kind of a data understanding that you need. Again, if I'll talk about a marketing, so again, depends upon a kind of a market that you are going to target, or depends upon kind of a domain that you're going to target. So digital marketing is also an area where we used to work a lot, and digital marketing itself is a huge market nowadays, and it's a very dynamic market, where we have to understand our customer, we have to understand our pricing, we have to understand our biddings. I would say we have to understand our own business, we have to understand all the loopholes in our own business, we have to understand our customer, that okay fine, so how I will be able to onboard or do a customer acquisition. So if I'll talk about a marketing, so yes, so try to understand our digital marketing. Maybe you can start from a digital marketing, or maybe marketing wise, so how to do a B2B marketing, how to do a B2C marketing, how to do a B2C marketing. So business to business, business to customer, business to business to customer. So if you are able to understand this particular factor, so on top of this technology, so yes, I would say that you will be able to, it will make your path easier to get into a marketing industry. So technology wise, just try to focus on some kind of analytics tool, SQL, Excel, and with some set of a data. That will be my advice to you. And business wise, try to understand B2B, B2C, B2B2C. So try to pick any of this business. So maybe you can try to go ahead with maybe a telecom business, or maybe a electronics retail business, or maybe a digital marketing for some kind of a educational business. And then you can try to understand that, okay, fine, so how this business actually works. And then on top of that, so how you will be able to utilize this skill set in a real time. So
Right.
yeah, Rajat, question please.
Another question is by Devjit Mandal, who says that if a candidate has experience in sales and business development and enters data science world, will he be considered a fresher or an experienced?
So if you have some kind of experience officially, if you have some kind of experience, and if you are able to project those things in your resume, so people will not consider you as a fresher, that is for sure. So that will be my answer.
Right. And how can you increase analytical skills? Can you please suggest some tasks?
See, analytical skill wise, I would say, so first of all, okay, my suggestion to every one of you will be, so let me share my screen. So here, let me go to Google. So see guys, what happens is, so technology acquisition wise, it's completely fine. You can learn Tableau, you can learn Power BI, you can learn all those things from anywhere. But unless and until, so you are not going to practice it, you will not be able to practice, or you will not be able to remember, or you will not be able to learn anything for a very long time. So my suggestion to all of you will be, so there is a UCI, which is a data repository, which is available. You can try to search. So basically it's an open source data, which people have given to you for every kind of a things, even for the time series, for the classification and regression. So you can try to download a data from here. So even data description is given for every data set. Data descriptions is also given, whatever data you can try to pull. So data set descriptions, a data folder, everything is given. Huge amount of a data, even a small amount of a data is given. So based on your area of interest, you can try to pick and choose. Maybe if you're looking for supply chain data, get the data from here. If you're looking for healthcare data, get the data from here. If you're looking for maybe a retail data, get the data from here, and try to practice. So if I'll talk about the data analytics, so like I told you, you should know SQL, you should know Excel, you should know a dashboarding tool. You should, if better, if you know a programming language, a little bit at least, like in terms of a data manipulation, like a Python programming language, Pandas data frame and all those things. So just try to practice it with respect to these data. try to understand, like I told you, data understanding is very much important. So try to explore that, okay, so what is the meaning of this particular field which has been mentioned inside the data? So maybe you can go to a data description, because for every data which has been mentioned inside a UCI, which is an open source, so you will be able to get a data descriptions in a very detailed, as you can see. It's a very detailed study, so you will be able to do, and based on that, so you will be able to get amazing analytics on top of that. So that will be my advice. So practice is the only factor which will make you a real data analyst or maybe a real data scientist. Without practice, learning is not going to give you, or maybe practice with a people who is already having some kind of expertise into this one, so that they will be able to discuss about some kind of a domain knowledge as well. So that will be my advice to you.
Right. Another question which is coming is how important is knowledge of computer language and data science for doing MBA in business analytics? I think you only answered right now the same question.
Yeah, just to add a couple of points over here. So see, guys, programming is computer programming is yes, like a people who is coming from a non-technical background. So it's kind of a nightmare for you guys. I agree with that. I completely understand those things. But yeah, if I'll talk about a C, C++ or Java kind of programming language, it's really a nightmare. I will completely agree with you. I'll completely go with you. But recent days people have started using some of the programming language like a Python and R, and actually this programming language has been developed and designed for a person who is not even from the technical background and they wanted to do some kind of a data operations. So Python, or I would say R, is a language which is designed for you. I will ask you to go for only one language, because language is not a analytics, or language not a data science, I would say. So language just give you a capability to explore or to look into a data. Python complexity level of learning is very low. So if Java complexity level is 4 out of 5 in terms of complexity of learning, so at the same place for Python, it's just 1 out of 5 in terms of complexity. So I think you should start exploring those language in a current situation. So see, it's not like you will not be able to perform these operations by writing a SQL. You can do that. I will completely agree with those things. It's not like you will not try to do this kind of operations by just using Excel. You can do it. But if suppose something is taking maybe a 10-minute or 20-minute of time in a SQL or in an Excel, in Python language, you will be able to do it just by writing one single line of a code, and that too within a fraction of second. So I think that is a better approach. That is the best approach. So you can start learning Python, and actually unless and until you will not see Python, so people think that, okay, fine, so every language is complex. But once you will start learning Python, you will find out that nothing is complex. It's completely fine, and I can learn these things, and not only learn, you will be able to utilize it. So that is my answer, Rajat. Yeah.
So there are 2 questions which are for certificates, so I'll take those answers. How you can get the certificate is, you can visit Takshila's website. Just give me a second, I'll just give it to you. Right. You can visit the Takshila's website, go to the www.takshila.in. When you go there, you can click on the events icon, event tab. When you go to the events tab, you can search for the program which you are working on. Like mini MBA in business analytics is what you want to focus on because of last 2 days. And then you can click on the program name.
So Rajat, you can stop this participant.
Yes, I did that. I stopped that. Right. And then if you see here, get your pass. So this is for critical thinking. Just give me a second. Right. So we want to download the certificate for entrepreneurship, for example. You can click on this and download your certificate. When you click download certificate, put your email ID from which you have registered in this webinar for last 2 days in the mini MBA, and sign in, and you'll be able to download your certificate from this portal.